Hi, everybody, and welcome to a very special program today. We're calling it A Day with the Stanley Cup. My name is Paul Santos from Cable Access Television. Glad to have you in today. Today we are at the home of Bill Rocha. He's in Freetown, Massachusetts. He lives here, and he has a little party going on because of the Stanley Cup. What's happened is a gentleman by the name of Tom Mulligan, who's originally from New Bedford and played hockey at New Bedford High School some years back, went on to a career in hockey. He interned as a trainer with the Boston Bruins several years back and eventually hooked on with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And guess what happened? Well, the Tampa Bay Lightning went on a roll during the 2004 playoffs, and they ended up winning one of the great prizes in all of professional sports, the storied Stanley Cup. So Tom Mulligan decided to have a little party. Anybody that's on the team, whether you're a player, whether you're the head trainer, whether you're an assistant coach, everybody that's on the team gets to take the Stanley Cup for a day. Well, New Bedford's own Tom Mulligan has brought the cup to the New Bedford area, and they put together a little cookout here at the home of Bill Rocha in Freetown, Massachusetts. As you can see, it just is one of the great prizes in all of professional sports. It is the oldest trophy competed for in professional sports. Originally, the cup was donated by Lord Stanley of Canada back in the 1890s. It was donated to be the prize that would be competed for the professional hockey. And originally, it was only the top bowl. It was only the top bowl that they played for. And as years have gone by, they've continued to add layer after layer. As you can see down from the bottom section, you'll notice a little bit of print down there. Every single team roster that has won the Stanley Cup, back from the original days all the way till now, gets their entire roster printed on the cup, engraved on the cup. So that means New Bedford's own Tom Mulligan, because he's the head trainer, will actually be on the cup. His name will actually be on the Stanley Cup, which is a great honor for anyone who is from the city of New Bedford. So we decided to come up here to Freetown, maybe take a look at the cup, talk to Tommy a little bit, and talk to some of the folks that are here enjoying a great party. And as you can see, there are a lot of people here to spend a little bit of time with Lord Stanley's Cup. Now right over here you see a young child is being hoisted over the Stanley Cup. Boy, it's not too often that you get to actually sit in the Stanley Cup. So here is the young gentleman seated on the Stanley Cup.
The Red Sox shirt.
And he's got the Red Sox shirt, so that's okay. The Tampa Bay Lightning, of course, winning their first ever Stanley Cup. It's a franchise that's only been around for approximately 10 years. And I know that a lot of people who are from the New Bedford area, they generally root for the Boston Bruins, but after they got eliminated from the playoffs, a lot of people decided to pull for the Stanley Cup to go to Tampa Bay because of New Bedford's own Tommy Mulligan being connected to the team. All right, we're joined now by the man of the hour, I believe, Tom Mulligan, who's the trainer for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Last time I had a chance to talk to Tom, he was interning with the Boston Bruins as a trainer. Then you got that job with Tampa Bay. I remember reading about it in the paper. I thought, gee, that's great. Kid from New Bedford, getting a job he always dreamed of. But did you ever think that, hey, maybe a year or two down the road, Stanley Cup time?
No, I mean, you always dream about it, but I never planned on it. When I interviewed in Tampa Bay, a few of my friends and family are like, well, you know, they're not a very good team, so you might never get a chance to win. I said, well, you know, I'll get a start in the NHL and see where it takes me. And 2 years later, you know, now we have this. So I definitely didn't expect that.
I know you started playing hockey when you were young. Did you start as a youth hockey player? I know you played in high school.
I started my first organized league. I was a 9. So I played, you know, in the Hetland program here, and played in New Bedford High, and then called it quits after high school and pursued athletic training and physical therapy, and ended up in hockey.
Now, why did you choose this athletic training as a career?
You know, growing up, I wanted to be involved in sports medicine, and I just kind of evolved into physical therapy with a minor in athletic training, and from there I just got an internship with Boston, and it opened up all kinds of doors. I worked in Providence for 4 years and won the championship with the minor league team in Providence in '99, and then last year I got hired by Tampa. So it's been an unbelievable ride.
What's it like behind the scenes with a professional club that, you know, people would find fascinating?
I mean, they're just regular people. You know, the players are no different than you or I, and you know, just as long as there's mutual respect there, I respect them, they respect me. You know, everything works out great. You know, a lot of people, because of their status in the entertainment business, you could say, they've put them on such a high pedestal as role models, but they're just regular people and great to work with.
I know you had a chance to work with Bork when he was there, and of course Thornton and Samsonoff and all these Bruin guys. When you were first working there, you were a Bruins fan, so it must have been kind of strange to be in the room with a lot of these people that you've watched.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I mean, I'll never forget the first day as an intern in Boston, and Ray walked in the room, and he came up to me and introduced himself, and I was like, "You kidding? You're introducing yourself? You don't know?" And you know, so it was pretty neat. You know, it was a pretty neat experience, and now just to still be part of it, it's great.
Well, it's funny. I'm a big hockey fan, and my kids play hockey, and what's happened in the last few years, we're all big Bruin fans, but in the springtime, we always go down to Florida in April, and we've been going to see Tampa Bay games.
Yeah, that's great.
So we went this last year in the Canadian series, and I was thinking, hey, if the Bruins get knocked out, we're going to start rooting for Tampa Bay. And of course, they went on and won the whole thing. What was it like to be there? The St. Pete Times Forum is a great place, and it was rocking. I mean, the excitement must have been unbelievable.
It was wild. I mean, you think about what it's going to feel like to win it, but when it happened, to be honest, I had no emotion. I mean, I couldn't believe that it happened, and I still don't believe that it happened. I mean, it's still. You know, maybe after today and this dies down, I'll sink in and it'll hit me, and it'll take a look at the pictures, and everything will hit me. But it's still been just a great ride.
Did you know that you were going to get to take the cup home with you?
Yeah, that was one of the things that everybody who's involved with it, players, coaches, trainers, and you know, everybody gets it for a day. So that's one of the things in the back of my mind the whole time. Like, the cup's going to New Bedford.
Now, what is the first thing you did with it? Did you bring it to your home?
I brought it to my parents' house last night. They showed up about 5 o'clock last night. And,
this is the house you grew up in, right?
Yeah. And grew up, played street hockey in the kitchen, in the backyard.
And there's the Stanley Cup sitting on the kitchen table, right?
So last night we just had a small family, a couple of friends over, and enjoyed it, you know, and just tried to keep it small. And today we was lucky enough to have more people come and experience it, and I was glad I was able to do that.
All right, well, congratulations. It was a great year for Tampa Bay, and it was great that you brought the cup to New Bedford.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks a lot.
All right, we're still here at the Cup Party, and we're joined by Walter Newbrand. He's from the Hockey Hall of Fame, and it's his job to accompany the Stanley Cup around the country as different members of the Tampa Bay Lightning spend a day with the Stanley Cup. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your duties as the person who accompanies the Stanley Cup.
Basically, all we do as Stanley Cup guards is we go around with the Stanley Cup, take it where it has to go, and make sure nobody does anything silly with it. And we also provide public relations with it, so if people have questions or they want to ask me something, anything about the cup or hockey, I do my best to answer them.
Now, what we have here is sort of a cookout, and everybody's out looking at the cup, taking pictures. Is that generally what happens when people take the cup?
Yeah, this is a very, not an average party, but this is what people normally do. And as you can see, everybody's been really excited, and they're happy to get a picture with a cup. I haven't seen too many parties with this much food before. Like, this is anybody who goes home hungry from here, I don't know where they were, but it's this is very standard, and it's great to see. It makes my job easier too, you know. I don't have to worry about too much.
Well, I know one thing about the cup, which has become a real good tradition, is the fact that everybody gets to take it for a day. When did that start, and how did it start?
It started in 1995, and each player was allowed to formally take it home for a day, 24 hours. It's not 24 hours per se, but it's generally a day or two, and you get to bring it wherever they want. It could be, we've been to Alaska, we've been to Russia, we've been to Sweden, been to New Bedford, you know, wherever they want. And I think it just got to the point where things were happening to the cup that they weren't too impressed with, and they decided, you know, we should put someone on this. And I think the players appreciate it, because back in the old days, I know Phil Esposito was telling me this a few days ago, the players didn't really get much time with it, and they would have loved to have done stuff like this, but they never had any. Where's the cup? They don't know. There's no official person or anything looking after it. So now people can send out invitations. They can, you know, book halls and restaurants, and it's like a wedding almost, you know. But I think it's done a lot. It's handled and organized a lot better. The players don't have to worry about any transportation issues. Like, we go with it, we take it there, we take it away, we look after it. The players or the personnel can enjoy themselves, and you know, we're right there. And Tom's been great. You know, he's been very responsible, and I have no problems worrying about the cup with him. And you know, generally for all of the Tampa Bay people, they've been very good, and it's been a pleasure to work with that organization.
Now the rosters are put engraved right onto the Stanley Cup. How did that start? Because that takes up a good deal of room.
Yeah, people always go, what happens when the Stanley Cup fills up? Do you make a new one or do you add another layer? Well, what we do is we take, on the Stanley Cup, the bottom barrel is made up of 5 bands. And what we do is when the bottom one fills up, we take the top one off of the 5 bands because that's the oldest. We put it in the Hall of Fame, flatten it out, and put it on a wall in the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. We shift the other bands up, and we put another blank one on the bottom. So every 13 years, a new band goes on. So I told Tom, I said, because next year on the bottom you can see one more open space. When next year when there's a winner, they take a band off. You can see it right down by his right leg there. A new band will go on. So he'll be on there for 53 years. So he's about 30 now. So when he's 83 or 82. Then he comes off the cup. So I said, if you win it next year, then you could be the first one on the new band. It'll be 65 years, and he might not even be around by then. So.
You know, when you think of basketball, and of course they have the Lombardi Trophy and football, there's something different about the Stanley Cup that separates it from all the other trophies. Why do you think that is? Just the history, the tradition?
Well, what's interesting is that the Stanley Cup, that Stanley Cup there is the same one that Bobby Orr drank out of, the same one that Mario Lemieux and Brian Trottier. These are all players that same cup. And the NBA, the World Series, the Super Bowl, they make new trophies every year. But this is the same trophy, just gets passed on from team to team. So I think that's what makes it special. And because of that, and because of the tradition we do of letting players have it all the time, the cup has got so much exposure and it's marketed so well. So with that, it's become famous. And I think that's a great tradition, and hopefully we can keep it up.
You can see right there a youngster going inside the Stanley Cup.
That's my favorite pose.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one. I'm sure a lot of the players and a lot of the people who have young children, they just love to do that.
We only let the players do that. People, or someone at the player, like if a player's here or one of the trainers or whoever, if he's around and he says it's okay, then that's fine. But we don't, if we have it on public display, say if we went to the Fleet Center and had it on display, no babies go in it or anything. So it's kind of a special little perks for the players and things like that.
I always get a kick out of it on that last game, usually the 6th or 7th game of the finals, when it's in the 3rd period and somebody has a lead and you see these gentlemen coming in the blazer with the box and the white gloves. You get to do that?
Well, that's actually my boss, Phil Pritchard. He presents it on the ice, and everyone says, "Oh, that team's cocky for doing that." But actually, the TV's requested. They said, "You mind doing that?" And the Hockey Hall of Fame has to get the cup ready just in case it's presented. Like, it's hard in overtime because if it's a game 6 like that, they have to get it out just in case Calgary. Tom, is that dog declawed? Does that dog have claws? Unless you want to put a towel right up there, put a towel in there so he doesn't scratch it.
So you're getting some good behind-the-scenes look at the job of Walter Newbrand. Your job is to protect the cup, right?
You see, just say the dog scratches it and leaves a bad mark. And it's also kind of, then they want to drink out of it. That's why.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to drink out of it.
I don't have people who drink out of it after that. But we try and clean it, like I would say. They get so excited. Oh, let's drink out of it. And I'm like, let's clean the bowl.
You don't know where it's been.
Let's clean the bowl first, guys,
All right, Walter, we'll appreciate you taking a few minutes and joining us here on New Bedford Cable. And good to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
As you can see, if you're a Boston Bruins fan, I think the best part of the Stanley Cup are the last 2 that most folks remember. That's during the Bobby Orr, Phil Esposito era, the 1969-70 Boston Bruins, and, of course, the 71-72 Bruins, which are over here. Unbelievable how they won those 2 Stanley Cups. And you can see a lot of the names that are inscribed there: Ed Johnston, Dallas Smith, Don Ari, Wayne Cashman, Phil Esposito, Bobby Orr. They're all engraved right there in the Stanley Cup. And this year, of course, the Tampa Bay Lightning, all of the players will be on the Stanley Cup. And, of course, New Bedford's own Tom Mulligan, the head trainer, his name will also be on the Stanley Cup. So it's a lot of fun, and it's great that Tom was able to have his day with the Cup down here in the greater New Bedford area. So that wraps it up, a day with the Stanley Cup in greater New Bedford. I'm Paul Santos for New Bedford Cable Access. Thanks for watching, and good night.